Woo! Sam Tobias says Detroit won the trade with Los Angeles. Hector Gomez, good morning. Anthony Del Toro doesn't like the "we'll be right back" screen. Pendejo, welcome in. Raul Santillan, Jason Garcia, Cody Webb, welcome in. I could use some headphones. Probably a good idea for radio. Sam Tobias, all praise. Gregory Charles Popovich, amen. Thank you, Jason. I'm glad you like the voice drop. Yeah, Anthony, I'll try not to curse on the air. Super Bowl week has arrived. Praise Tom Landry and glory, glory, hallelujah to all of the football gods on high. We've got a lot to talk about. Sam Ehlinger throws a touchdown pass in the Senior Bowl, but the Aggie wins MVP. We'll get into that. We're only a day away from the clash of the Titans in the Big 12. Texas versus Baylor, I think. If it's still on, we'll have to check on that. We'll talk. Spurs go from 4th in the Western Conference on Friday night to 9th now in the Western Conference. We'll talk about everything, the Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff trade. Shannon Salty Sweeney on board as always. What is happening, Shannon? How was your weekend?
It was pretty relaxing, pretty uneventful with the lack of big games on. I really only had planned to watch that Texas game. And I'm going through a drive-thru, getting some tacos, looking at the menu online, and I get a notification across my screen that says Texas, Kentucky has been canceled.
That's happening a lot lately.
It's starting to become a thing.
Yeah.
And now we have to take on the number 2 team, 16-0 in the nation, Baylor.
And where
having not played in a week.
Is that at Texas or is that at Baylor?
It is at Texas, and I'm hearing that they're going to let some fans trickle in there.
Ooh, okay, that's good news.
That is good news.
And as far as we know, the game is on for tomorrow night.
As of right now, knowing how things work around here at 9:02, it'll be called off.
Yeah, well, we'll talk Longhorn basketball this morning. A great opportunity for the Longhorns to rise up and knock off the number 2 and undefeated, as Shannon mentions, Baylor Bears. So Shannon on board. I'm on board. We thank you for being on board. You can join us at any time this morning, 800-707-9760. And we are joined by soundscape stylist and the man who turned down a scholarship offer to Oklahoma Satanic University because, it's just such a hassle. Sacrificing goats, carving pentagrams into your hand, the smell of garlic. So he went to Oklahoma Christian University, where someday there will be a statue of him out front. Who knows? Maybe later this year. The lovely, the talented Jeremy Fouts. Jeremy, how are you this morning?
What's up, guys? I'm doing okay. Happy Change Your Password Day. And
Change your password.
Apparently, I should change my password because I came in this morning and the log was all messed up. But I fixed it. But if there's some issues, it's not my fault.
I do not change my passwords nearly enough. I need to do that. And today would be the day.
Yes, sir. February 1st. Change your password.
February 1st.
There's got to be a reason why today is the day, though.
Yeah.
What happens in January where...
Well, I think people may be
things
too
go messed up?
overwhelmed on January 1st. There's so much new stuff, so much to do so maybe they delay it by a month. Can you believe we already banged out January? All we were doing in 2020 was saying, get us to 2021. Let's get to 2021. And now we're 1 month done, 11 to go in 2021.
So we are saying it's 2021. We're not just still calling it 2020 because January still felt like we were rolling.
Hey, man. Yeah, I know. With all the craziness in January and a lot more coronavirus to deal with. So, yeah, what do you think? Are we still in 2020?
It feels like it. I'm okay with chalking it up to 2020. I mean, it's Super Bowl week and it doesn't feel like it to me.
No. Well, and especially
it's not even the top story.
Yeah. Well, and especially with Kansas City just not even showing up until the weekend.
Right.
Kansas City's going to mosey on into Tampa, like a day before the Super Bowl.
They're like,
Saturday.
it's fine. We have a reservation. No need to get there for an hour wait ahead of time.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to start without us. So, chief players are saying, hey, this is great. We're with our family. We have a routine that we've done every road game this year. This is how we do it. Sleep in our own beds for most of the week. Don't have to put up with a hotel room and the craziness. And they experienced it a year ago when they played the 49ers. So probably as much as people talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being the first ever team to have a home field in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, dissipating that advantage as much as they can. They're pretty happy with the way they're doing things this week.
And what a year for Tampa to have to host the Super Bowl. It's supposed to be this big flex of income for the city. Hotels are still struggling. They opened the NFL fan experience this weekend. Not nearly the same experience you would typically get. Still, the lockers of the players and a couple busts from the Hall of Fame and, place to get merch and try your chance at kicking a field goal. But it's just not the same. Typically you've mentioned on the show before how you used to be on Radio Row.
Yes.
And that's just not even a thing.
You're right. And that was just, as a football fan, most people know how Radio Row at the Super Bowl works. It's superstar after superstar. It's Joe Montana and then Roger Staubach and then Joe Theismann. And then Joe Theismann was so weird. And it was when the Super Bowl was in Dallas, when it was Packers versus Steelers. I think I told the story, Shannon. I hated Joe Theismann. Because he played for the Washington football team. He was an arch enemy of the Cowboys. He beat the Cowboys so many times. I grew up hating that team more than any other team as a Cowboys fan. And we interviewed Joe Montana on Radio Row. He is the nicest guy in the world. He was just so nice. And so he goes, oh, you guys are from San Antonio. I love San Antonio. I love the Riverwalk. Great Mexican food. He goes, hey, do you guys know Red McCombs? I go, yeah, we know Red. He goes, he's a friend of mine. He's such a good. I'm like, at the end of the interview, I said, Joe, I have to tell you, man, I'm a little disappointed at this interview because I hated your guts for like 25 years. And you're like the nicest guy in the world.
Now I want to be your best friend.
He was. So I like that. I like, and again, Shannon, as you know, I've totally flipped on Tom Brady. I used to hate Tom Brady's guts. Now I'm pulling for him. Now that he's the oldest guy in the NFL and he's trying. I heard an interview with him last night, And once again, he was asked the question, are you going to try to go until you're 45? And he said, yes, that's the goal. I'm going to play as long as I feel I'm productive and I'm contributing. And my goal is to play until I'm 45. And he's 43 now. So, I think it's a good thing to flip on people.
It's crazy that his goal is 45 because he's not saying I'm done at 45. Saying his goal is to make it to 45, and then I guess all the extra years are just bonus years.
Yeah, I think, and again, he's completely different, but George Blanda was a quarterback and a kicker for the Oakland Raiders. In fact, he started his career in 1960 in the AFL with the Houston Oilers. And I'll have to look it up, but I believe George Blanda was the quarterback for the Oilers when they won the first ever AFL championship in 1960. But Blanda wound up being a backup quarterback for the Raiders behind Darryl LaMonica and later behind Ken Stabler, but he was also a kicker. He was like a straight-on kicker, I believe, and I'll have to look it up. I think Blanda played until 47. It would be interesting, and I know one of those kickers like Morton Anderson, I think kicked until he was like 47. I wonder if maybe Brady, when he gets to 45, if he's still playing at a high level, if maybe he tries to just break whatever the record is of the oldest NFL player ever.
I mean, he's got so many other records. What's one more? What's one more for Brady?
Man.
He'd never do the backup thing, though.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I think he would not do that. But my God, the way he's playing this year, and who'd have thunk? I mean, we just kind of. It happened. Tampa Bay's in the Super Bowl. This was a team that wasn't in the playoffs a year ago. It doesn't just happen this easily. It's not supposed to just happen like this. And he's in a division where the Saints are, where up until that playoff game, Drew Brees was playing very, very well. And oh, by the way, the Saints swept them and the Saints won that division. So Tampa Bay had to win all of its road games to be able to go to the Super Bowl and play their game at home in the Super Bowl. It was, even once the playoffs began, it was very improbable. And just the most recent game at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, they were underdogs and it was improbable. So a crazy, crazy ride for Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
And the effect that it's had on the rest of the NFL, that they were able to put in a quarterback. Everyone always says, we're just a quarterback away.
Yeah.
Brady goes in for Jameis Winston, who was 30 for 30 the previous year. Brady throws over 40 touchdowns, has a handful of interceptions, takes them to a Super Bowl. And now with this quarterback situation we have going on in the rest of the league, that is now the idea behind it, of that the Rams think they are just a quarterback away from another Super Bowl appearance, and they land Matthew Stafford.
We are going to get into the Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff trade and who won that trade. Lots to talk about there. Brooklyn Nets score 146 points last night and they lose. They scored 147, I think, on Friday night. We'll get into the NBA, Spurs, NFL, Super Bowl, everything coming up. But now we do this around 6:20 and around 7:20. In fact, we do it 12 times throughout the day. It is the grand, easy for me to say, the grand in your hand cash contest. And it goes a little bit something like this.
And message rates apply in this nationwide contest. Once again, that's love to 200 200. Good luck.
Good luck, love. That's a good keyword. Tracy on Facebook Live is posting, George Blanda played 26 seasons of professional football, the most in sports history, and had scored more points than anyone in history at the time of his retirement. Blanda retired from pro football in August of 1976 as the oldest player to ever play at age 48. I thought it was 47. It was 48. So maybe Brady takes a shot at 48. Who knows?
What's crazy is that even if he does that, being the oldest player won't be really part of his legacy when you talk about Tom Brady.
True.
Because of all the other things he's accomplished. I saw today, he's taken over 200 teammates to the Super Bowl, 3 of which are now Hall of Famers.
Wow.
And then, he's got Gronk, who's going to most likely be in the Hall of Fame. Tom Brady will certainly be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I would have loved, if I was in the NFL, I would love to ride the wave of Tom Brady.
Yes. Speaking of Hall of Fame, on Wednesday, and God, I hope this is the week. I hope it happens for him this week. Drew Pearson, the Dallas Cowboys legendary wide receiver, the guy who caught the Hail Mary pass from Roger Staubach, he is supposed to find out one way or another on Saturday if he is going to be put into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the Legends category. Drew Pearson going to join us on this show Wednesday at 8:35. So that should be a lot of fun. So I'll tell you that now and then between now and Wednesday, whenever the Hall of Fame comes up, because I'm really, and man, you saw Shannon, didn't you, when he thought he was getting in a couple of years ago?
Yeah. Camera Cruz.
Camera Cruz. He was
whole family.
He was crushed. I felt, and I've had the privilege of meeting him over the years, and I felt so bad for him. He's such a good guy, and I think he's so deserving of getting in. Our good friend James Allen, who is on the board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we have him on the show a lot. We'll probably get him on this week. In fact, he indicates to us, without saying definitively, but it sure sounds like Drew is going to get in. But I think Drew found out the hard way. You don't count your chickens before they're hatched. So as a huge fan of his, God, I hope it works out for him this week. Either way, we'll talk to him on Wednesday.
We'll be glad that those cameras were rolling when they were, so that way when we look back on that, when he is receiving that gold jacket, it'll make it all that much more sweeter.
That's true. And it's that way in sports and in life. I remember when the Spurs got their hearts torn out against LeBron James and the Miami Heat in 2013 in the finals, when they thought they were going to win game 6 and Ray Allen hits that 3-point shot with seconds left. The tape was being put all around the court. The champagne was getting rolled into the locker room, and they got their hearts torn out, and they lost that series in 7 games to the Heat. But what they did was they rededicated themselves, and they went on a mission to win the darn thing the next year. And it's so weird. It was all the sweeter for the Spurs and for Spurs fans having come so close and had their hearts crushed. So I agree, Shannon, for Drew Pearson, in a weird way, I think it'll all be sweeter for him, having been just destroyed the way he was a couple of years ago, thinking he was in and not getting in. So,
and everyone will celebrate him getting in, even Eagles fans. They have to,
so. Even though he trolled them at the draft a few years ago.
I can't wait to talk to him about that.
Should we do the poll question here, or should we break and tease the poll question?
Let's tease it.
All right, we'll tease it.
Let's tease it.
We're such a tease on this show. But coming up, Shannon will tell us the poll question. Has to do with the NFL, has to do with quarterbacks, has to do with winning and losing. The poll question coming up. We will talk Super Bowl. Super Bowl week has begun. We'll talk about the big trade between the Rams and the Detroit Lions. What does it mean for the Houston Texans and what their asking price might be for Deshaun Watson? We'll get into that as well. Tanner Carlson going to join us in studio at 8:06. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics, going to join us at 8:35. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. Till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us. Woo! Abron Jesus Lucio, I agree, says it would be a national tragedy if he doesn't get in this year. I agree with that. Jason Garcia, John Williams, Laura Burris in here. Good morning, Laura. Hector Gomez, Sam Tobias, Clint Proctor pimping Patrick Mahomes GOAT t-shirts on Twitter yesterday. Julio Reyes, good morning. Julio, one of the greatest runners in San Antonio history. Raul Santillan. Luisa Alanis. All right. Julio Reyes, good morning. Julio, one of
I'm
the
now
greatest
hearing
in San Antonio history.
I'm hearing myself. Let me turn that off.
Luisa Alanis. Okay, Matthew Stafford is 32. How old is Jared Goff? I got to Google that.
It's 26.
Jared Goff is 26. Let me make sure I've got this correct. Lions get a third-round draft pick this year, and then, excuse me, a number 1 in 2022 and a number 1 in 2023. Okay. All right. Now I get it. Yeah, Sam Tobias, I agree with you. Jeremy Fouts and Sam Freese should be paid more money. Laura Burris says, shout out to the St. John's Red Storm men's basketball win over Marquette. One of my favorite Spurs went to St. John's. That would be Billy Paltz, the Whopper, back in the ABA, early NBA days for the Spurs. Foot Foam 420 is back, or Foam Foot 420, sorry. Here we go. Welcome in on a Monday morning, on a beginning of Super Bowl week, the beginning of a new month. It is Monday, February 1st. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. The man playing the tunes, making the show go, is your soundscape stylist, Jeremy Fouts. You are welcome to join us. There's a lot of ways you can join us. You want to dial us up on the phone line? We love taking your phone calls. Phone number is 800-707-9760. You can join us as we stream live video on Facebook Live and on Twitter and on YouTube. There's lots of ways to find that. We are on AM 1300 The Zone's Facebook page. We are on Ticket 760's Facebook page. There's a YouTube video out there. It's being pushed out as well on the AM 1300 The Zone Twitter account and on Ticket 760's Twitter account. You can tweet us individually. Shannon is on Twitter at Shannon B. Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts is on Twitter at SATX Foxy Grandpa. I always want to call you Sexy Grandpa. I don't know why. Foxy Sexy. Foxy Grandpa. I am not Foxy at all. I am on Twitter at Chris Duel. And Shannon, we do have a poll question this morning.
Yes, sir. Keeping it simple. Which team won the Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff trade? Currently, Detroit Lions leading with 52% over the Rams at 47%. I woke up this morning and saw this poll and immediately voted Detroit. Because if they're smart, they'll really take a look at themselves and question why our franchise player, after so many years, has finally given up and said, get me out of here. And they've received these picks from the Rams. They've got a quarterback who does have the ability to be great. He's just not consistent, but he has taken their team to a Super Bowl. He did take them into the playoffs this year. So it's not like they got a dud. Well, I mean, he does think the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, but that's, he can learn a few things and that'll be corrected. But then as I go on, I think about the Rams and how they're trying to emulate what Tampa Bay has done this year, where they really feel like they are a quarterback away. I mean, think of all the trades that they've given away just in the last couple of years, or those picks, and to collect these guys that fill these roles, that are these big name players. Their defense is stacked. They've got great weapons on the outside on the offense. They just really feel like one great quarterback will nab them a chance at the NFC Championship and hopefully a trip to the Super Bowl. And back to the Super Bowl, of course, Mr. Sean McVay, the notable young guy who led them there so early, and now all they want is to get back. So now I don't know. I think I could be swayed either way, but it's a hard question. What about you, Chris?
I lean Detroit just because you would think, it'll ultimately be four players. The Detroit Lions get Jared Goff. They get the number 3 pick this year, and then 2 number 1s from the Rams, a number 1 in 2022 and a number 1 in 2023. So as you say, Shannon, if Jared Goff can live up to his potential, I mean, and both of these guys were number 1 overall quarterbacks in their respective drafts. So they both came in with huge expectations. Jared Goff is now 26 years old. Matthew Stafford is now 32 years old. So I would lean Detroit in that ultimately these are going to be 4 players. Jared Goff, the number 3 this year, and then 2 number 1s. If just one of those players hits in a big way, maybe you win this thing. But it's also going to be very fascinating. I mean, how many people have said over the years, Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. It's a shame that Matthew Stafford is on a god-awful franchise where quarterbacks go to die, the Detroit Lions. Now we get to see him, and it's going to be fun. And he's a Texan, so I'd like to see him succeed, although I'm not a huge Rams fan. The whole Sean McVay, the fact that he's this wonderkind young wizard, I've never really loved that. I guess mainly because I've been jealous that he wasn't a Dallas Cowboy. But I would say Detroit has won it, but you never know at the beginning of a trade. You have to see how it plays out. You mentioned, Shannon, the Rams draft picks. Ever since drafting Jared Goff, number 1 overall in 2016, they have never, and they won't have another number 1 draft pick until at least 2024. Their 2017 pick went to the Titans. The 2018 pick went to the Patriots. 2019 to the Falcons. 2020 to the Jaguars. 2021 to the Jaguars. And now 2022 and 2023 number 1 picks to the Lions. It's like they say we don't need no stinking number 1 pick. And they keep going to the playoffs, so it's working for them.
Yeah, they're all in versus Houston, who has lost a ton of draft picks and seemingly has nothing to show for it, and 2 franchise players who would like to leave.
And now this begs the question. This has got to be raising Houston's asking price for Deshaun Watson, assuming there is an asking price. I know there's some people out there, and the indications in the press conference for David Culley the other day were, the Texans were saying we have no plans on trading Deshaun Watson. Now, obviously, that could be a smokescreen, and in any negotiation, you want to come from a position of power. So if anybody wants Deshaun Watson, you want to act as if you don't want to trade him and you want a king's ransom for him. But Shannon, given that Detroit got all of this for Matthew Stafford and he's 26, and excuse me, he's 32 years old, and Deshaun Watson is significantly younger, I got to believe this raises the stakes for anybody who would want Deshaun Watson, what they would have to trade for him.
Yeah, I would imagine that Houston was already asking for the world if anyone wanted Deshaun. And because, it's like with the holdout with Dak, right? You wait and you try to force your hand, but it kind of gets forced for you. And now that price has probably gone up. And it's interesting with Houston, too, that, there are two really prominent players that want out of there. And if maybe trying to deal one will then help them somehow deal the other. If they're able to trade JJ and maybe get, a backup quarterback or some guy that could maybe fill a piece for a little bit, or even get a draft pick a little higher than what you're already working with to go out and get that next guy that might be able to be your Deshaun Watson, and then see what you have available to get him out from under where he wants to be.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson, 25 years old. He'll turn 26 September 14th. So, yeah, you've got a 25-year-old elite quarterback. I think most of us would assume that Deshaun Watson is elite. Even though they were god-awful last year at 4-12, statistically, Deshaun Watson was outstanding last year for the Houston Texans. So if the Detroit Lions got this haul, another starting number 1 overall quarterback, a number 3 and 2 number 1 draft picks for 32-year-old Matthew Stafford, you would expect that the Houston Texans would want at least that. And, I look at the New York Jets, and that's been rumored to be a place that Deshaun Watson would accept a trade to. Don't forget, Deshaun Watson has a no trade clause in his contract, so he can reject any trade that the Houston Texans would consider with another team. So he's only going to go to a team that he approves. But Shannon, you look at the New York Jets, and they're a team with draft picks, and certainly with a high draft pick this year, who could make a similar deal to the Houston Texans. They could trade, their starting quarterback to the Houston Texans, and they've got the number 2 pick overall. They've got a lot of other picks, and we all know the Houston Texans, for that Laramie Tunsil deal, they traded away their number 1 pick this year to the Miami Dolphins, which would have been a very, very high pick. But most recently, the way to go to a Super Bowl is with a quarterback on a rookie deal. The Seattle Seahawks did that with Russell Wilson. Last year, the Kansas City Chiefs did that with Patrick Mahomes. It's a way to put other pieces around your quarterback. Deshaun Watson already has that mega contract. You've already got to pay him all of that money, yet he's a known commodity, and you get these number 1 draft picks, right now, which the Jets have, and you never know if your number 1 draft pick's going to hit, especially for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think the Jets are looking better and better for the Texans to at least attempt to send Deshaun Watson over there. You still don't really know what you have with Sam Darnold as a quarterback. So getting him to Houston, he could really turn things around. The Jets just weren't a great situation. The coaching changes up there, just he never had stability. And so you put him in an offense that he feels comfortable with, and give him guys around him that could work and benefit that team. And then, use those draft picks to help your offensive line, to give him time, something that neither a Texans quarterback nor a Jets quarterback really has much of these days.
And you've got to wonder, though, also from the Houston Texans perspective, bringing in a new coach, and you've got the whole COVID thing now. You've had a horrible season at 4-12. And if you trade Deshaun Watson away, and Deshaun Watson clearly saying, this is a dysfunctional franchise, I don't want to be here. And apparently J.J. Watt, the smart money says he's going to be gone as well. Do you want to do that to your fan base? And might you whenever fans start coming back, the Houston Texans are going to want to sell season tickets. The Houston Texans are going to want to sell merchandise. You just wonder if this Houston Texans fan base is going to stay away in droves if they're unhappy. And this is a team that has been relatively successful under Bill O'Brien. I mean, never, often go to the playoffs, but rarely go deep in the playoffs. Now if they're going to rebuild for several years, and if it looks like they've got a very dysfunctional franchise, you just wonder if Houston fans are going to come back in the way that they were with this team previously, or if they might stay away.
Yeah, I guess you have to ask the question, would fans rather come see some star players play mediocre football, or do they want to get wins? And if you want to get wins, it doesn't do you any good if you hang around with your star quarterback, but he's sitting on the bench because he's unhappy and he won't play, and you're paying him all this money. No one's going to come watch that. It's kind of like Kobe in his final season. Like, the Lakers weren't great and they weren't winning, but people still came to see Kobe. I don't think you have that situation here with JJ and Deshaun. They really want out. I think they're not going to. Deshaun could play his hand. He'd just say, I'm not going to play. JJ, I just think his time it's run its course. And the fact, when you think about how Houston treated him when he was drafted to that team and in the turnaround, I think, again, there's no burning of jerseys when either of these guys leaves. Only thanks from Texans fans. But truthfully, the Texans, no matter what, have to find a way to get wins, or else this fan base is going to look elsewhere for a team.
Yeah, and I think, it's so hard to find a franchise quarterback. And even though he's very, very disgruntled right now, Deshaun Watson, what you've got. He is very, very talented. You just signed him in September to this mega contract. And when he signed this contract, and again, maybe it was just words, maybe it is just what you say when you sign a mega contract. Maybe his agent advised him to say this, but, he said in September that he was looking forward to spending his career in Houston and not only leading the franchise to great things, but doing great things in the community. He just built a restaurant in Houston. He has been very, very active in the community. If he was in a place in September where there was hope and an expectation that Deshaun Watson was going to continue to be the long-term quarterback for the Houston Texans, I think now with the new coach, if you're that new coach, David Culley, you find a way to meet with him. You say, hey man, I will bend over backwards for you. I will do whatever we need to do to make this right for you and make the culture, the culture you want here in Houston. I think, and as we mentioned, Culley did coach him in the Pro Bowl as quarterbacks coach when he was with the Ravens and when the Ravens staff was on the Pro Bowl. I think you at least make that effort in good faith, and you try your best to do that, because we've seen, and Cowboy fans know this, after Aikman, it was a long, long time until you got to Tony Romo. There were a lot of bad quarterbacks that came and went until you found your franchise quarterback, and the Cowboys were lucky to go from Romo to Dak. But he's madly disgruntled right now, but you've got him in place. I think you try to find a way to make it right with Deshaun Watson. And
I think that's what ultimately Houston wants to do. And I think maybe somewhere in the back of Deshaun's mind, he may want that too. You think about this guy, he's 25 now, going to be 26. He is from Clemson. All he knew was winning.
Yeah.
He goes to the NFL, and he is that guy. He just doesn't have that team, and they're trying to find ways with what they have to get there. They finally fired the coach / GM. They've brought in new guys that they think are going to right this wrong and get this ship back on the course that it was initially set on when they drafted Deshaun. Why not at least stick it out and see what they have to say? If you really want to read into it, everyone's reading into the subtweets that he's liking and sharing on Instagram and all the social platforms. Well, he still has his profile picture and his background as himself in a Texans uniform. If most guys, when they're done, that's the first thing they go to change, to let people know I am a free agent. Come and get me. It hasn't happened with him yet.
Yeah, although he did, eliminate the description as Houston Texans quarterback in his social media.
Agent and contacts for bookings.
Yeah, it's like for football inquiries, And then there's his agent, and for like speaking engagements or something, there's somebody else.
And then JJ on the other end, like I think he's in Chicago with his wife. I saw him post something about how he ordered too many pizzas over the weekend.
I did.
Like
I saw that too.
He's just doing whatever. I don't think he cares anymore. He's just like, I'll play football where I play football.
Yeah, I saw that. JJ Watt said he like ordered a pizza online and didn't think it went through. So he got in his car and went to the pizza place. And then so he got 2 pizzas at the pizza place and he got home and it was delivered. So
and because there was so much pizza, he now owns like one of those heat safe bags that they usually deliver them in.
I'm glad to know JJ Watt is eating pizza.
Yeah, he's not a Tom Brady who's like only cauliflower crust.
Yes. JJ Watt. All right. Coming up, we'll talk more Super Bowl. Super Bowl week has begun. We'll talk some NBA. Lots of goings on in the NBA. Very weird weekend for the San Antonio Spurs. Things looked very, very good Friday night, and then all of a sudden looked very, very bad on Saturday night. Spurs in action again tonight. We'll get into the San Antonio Spurs and the NBA. Major League Baseball may start later than usual. We'll talk a little Major League Baseball as well. You can dial us up on the phone lines, 800-707-9760. We have a poll question up at Ticket 760 and at AM 1300 The Zone. Who won the trade between Jared Goff and between the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams? That and a lot more coming up. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. My mistake. I read the clock wrong. So on the hard out, does it just go out automatically when we hit it? Okay. Well, yeah, I don't want to make you do that. That was my mistake. I apologize. Bernard Trefan says Jerry Jones says to Texans fans, how about them Cowboys? Louisa is having the video freeze. Sorry about that. Sam Tobias is not seeing freezing. That's a good sign. Let's see here. Gonna see if there's any sports headlines that I did not see earlier this morning. Anything that might be popping. Let's see. Where's news? A signed Tom Brady rookie card from the year 2000 sold for $600,000. That's insane. Maybe we'll talk about that. $600,000. There's a report that the Rams tried to trade for Aaron Rodgers and were rejected before going after Matthew Stafford. Wow. You got to like that, you know, they're willing to make big moves.
Imagine feeling the freedom of 20/20 vision without the hassle of foggy glasses and contacts. Well, thanks to the LASIK Vision Institute, that freedom could be yours. If you want LASIK, then the LASIK Vision Institute has officially taken away everything standing in your way. At the LASIK Vision Institute, we're offering dramatically low prices, as low as $220 per eye, plus affordable financing. Go to LASIK.com and see if LASIK is right for you. The LASIK Vision Institute offers the latest FDA-approved LASIK technology.
I'm going to grab coffee. I'll be back in about 90 seconds. Woo! Woo! Wearing a mask. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Cowboys should trade Jerry Jones. Cowboys are waiting for his death. Sam, you'll trade anything for a bag of chips. Because Vince McMahon handled the XFL so well, we should trade him for Jerry Jones.
Let me know when you're playing The Weekend, because I'm so unhip I won't know. That way I can reference it.
You won't know?
I won't know. I don't listen to The Weekend. I listen to classic rock. When I'm on Sirius, it's classic rock. Nah, and I mean, anytime you want to play it is fine. I mean, we could be talking about the Super Bowl at any time. So second one, 7:35. Okay. Thank you, Anthony Del Toro.
Did you ever see Uncut Gems?
No.
Adam Sandler, like betting, gambling movie.
Yeah, Adam Sandler in a dramatic role as kind of
It was good though.
Yeah.
So when he's betting on the Celtics, but The Weeknd is in that movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's on. I think it's on Netflix. I should probably look at it.
It is. It'll make you squirm though. That movie.
Ooh. Okay.
Like it's so uptight and uncomfortable and.
Anthony says that was a great movie.
Now, Chris Duel.
Super Bowl week has begun. We'll talk about the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the weekend. Not the weekend, but the weekend. The weekend as in the halftime entertainment at the Super Bowl. I am unhip to the weekend. If you were on Facebook Live or YouTube or watching via the video links we pushed out on Twitter, you heard that little exchange. Are you into The Weeknd, Shannon?
He's got great songs. He definitely gets overplayed. You know, you hear the song at first and you're like, oh, this is really good. And then you keep hearing it and you keep hearing it and you keep hearing it. And right when you get tired of that one, they release another single. But I think he's a really talented singer. I don't know how great of a performer he is because, I mean, you're a fan of all the greats, right? I mean, there's a difference between the reason why they're the greats of the greats is because they can take those songs and perform them.
Yeah.
And just, you know, you just can't stop watching them. I don't know how great of a performer he is, but he did spend an extra $7 million of his own money for this performance this weekend for the Super Bowl.
And that was a big story, and you got to kind of like that. You know, there was an allotment. You know, there's a big budget the NFL gives a performer to be able to create a lot of razzle dazzle for the Super Bowl halftime show. But as you mentioned, The Weeknd is pumping in that's, I mean, even if you're a mega superstar, $7 million is a lot of money.
Oh yeah, and I know that Pepsi, who of course owns the halftime performance, they aren't doing a ton of commercials. They only have that one where I guess he's driving in and everyone's singing his song, and they don't realize that it's him who's driving in to go perform at the Super Bowl. So he's taking it upon himself, and he is releasing a best of album this week to kind of help push his Super Bowl. Because usually you have an artist who is just about to release music or just had released music. His album came out in 2020. I believe he was also snubbed from the Grammys entirely, and people were really shocked because I think his song Blinding Lights is like the #1 song of 2020.
Wow.
Had a TikTok trend that went along with it. You still hear it all the time. So I think this is his redemption this weekend.
Well, and you talk about him putting in $7 million of his own money for the production of the halftime show. It becomes such an iconic moment. I think of somebody like Prince, the time Prince was out there and it was raining and he was doing what he did. I mean, it is something that is remembered seemingly forever and ever. So, I mean, it's as big as the weekend is. I mean, this is something that has a life beyond halftime on February 7th. I mean, it's going to be out there forever. So I can kind of see, the desire to really want to make it something that cannot be forgotten and that will always, people are going to want to go look at it on YouTube or any chance they get.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of hits, and there's, rumors that, some celebrities may be joining him to do songs. I don't know who exactly, but there's always that rumor swirling of who will be that special guest. I think Prince did it all on his own.
Yeah.
And then Justin did it all on his own, but then also had the Prince. He had the original vocal cords from Prince's performance of I Would Die For You that he actually used with one of his songs during that live performance, but it all synced up perfectly. And Justin said it was like Prince himself blessed the moment.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. So The Weeknd, your halftime entertainment. And I will try to go check. I've got Apple Music, so I will go sample his best of album before the Super Bowl, Shannon. So I'll hip in myself. As I mentioned on Facebook Live, I typically, when I'm on satellite radio or something, I play classic rock. There's a Sirius XM channel called Classic Vinyl. So I don't just be, and I'm kind of a snob when it comes to music. I believe music of the 60s and early 70s was the best. So it's like if I'm going to spend time listening to music, I'd rather listen to stuff I know. So I need to expand my horizon. So my assignment for this week is The Weeknd.
There you go. And then we'll quiz you on what songs he performed during the live performance.
I already know Blinding Lights, you said, was the best of 2020. So, oh yeah, Blinding Lights, man. That's my favorite song by The Weeknd.
If you say that song title, does that ring a bell at all?
Absolutely not.
So when you hear the intro, you're going to think 70s, 80s with that one.
Cool.
So you may like that one. That may be your new jam.
It may be my new jam. Right after the show, I'm doing it in the car on the way home. Or Jeremy might play it before we're done. Jeremy Fouts, your soundscape stylist. So, Jeremy, we might hear some music by The Weeknd before this show is over. All right. Speaking of the participants in the Super Bowl, I just saw this during the break, and I just think this is insane. A signed Tom Brady rookie card from the year 2000 has sold at auction for $555,998. That is insane.
Why?
Nearly $600,000 for a freaking football card of a player who's still playing.
I guess I think it'll keep going up in value. I don't understand the trading cards thing. What about those is valuable to you?
I don't, at least at that level. I mean, obviously you can only pay that kind of money if you're a mega rich human being, but I don't understand that amount of money for a football card.
Is it bragging rights? Do you put it on your wall and it's all you can think about and you just stare at it for hours? Is it some narcissist thing where I have it so you don't? I don't understand. I mean, I can get like collecting cars or really just collecting anything as long as you're, but for that much, that's a house. That's 2 houses. That's 2 of my houses.
Well, and other notable cards, I'm reading from this story from Yahoo Sports. And again, this is a guy who's playing now and hasn't even won a title. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak of the Milwaukee Bucks. His rookie card in September sold for $1.812 million. A LeBron James signed rookie card signed for $1.8 million. I mean, and again, those prices are just astronomical and through the roof, and I can't even comprehend them. But on a certain, I understand that a LeBron James signed rookie card should be worth more than a Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Giannis hasn't done anything yet. And if anything, last year Milwaukee had the best record in the regular season in the NBA. If anything, Giannis has yet to live up to expectations until he wins a title. I think Giannis is kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, I don't understand. And then the fact that they're signed, if you're a true purist and a true fan, wouldn't you prefer having a card that you own and you personally got signed?
Yeah.
Rather than authentic and just some random signed card that happened who knows when. It may not even be signed. It may just be a printed signature. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's almost like that's the stock market stuff that happened over the weekends. I just couldn't comprehend like all these random, I guess, GameStop going up, AMC going up, these things that had really low stocks and just normal people getting in and changing the value of all these things. That to me, that's like what we're talking about right now with these cards. I don't understand.
Well, and as you said, Shannon, wouldn't you rather have a card or something that was signed to you? 2 of my favorite pieces of memorabilia, as you know, my favorite coach ever is Tom Landry. Praise Tom Landry, PTL Club. So I've got 2 things involving Tom Landry. One, a photograph where I'm standing next to him at Cowboys training camp in Thousand Oaks, California in 1985. And so it's like, it was cool. I got to meet him. I got to take a picture with him. It was cool.
You have a memory to go with the thing.
Yes. But you talk about an autograph. So then years later, my father-in-law met him. It was doing some kind of business with him, actually in Austin, of all places. And so my father-in-law got a football and said, my son-in-law loves you and he's like a huge fan of yours. Can you sign this football for him? So I've got a football that says, "To Chris, best wishes, Tom Landry," and to me, that's cool because it was like specifically signed for me by Tom Landry, as opposed to, as you mentioned, here's an authenticated autograph of Tom Brady or Tom Landry or LeBron James or whoever that you didn't get, that wasn't for you, that wasn't intended for you, that somebody else got and views as a commodity that they now want to sell to the highest bidder. I just find that weird.
And you were in LA, right? You were in there for plenty of years. I went a couple of years ago to visit a friend. So it was the first time I was really experiencing LA. And it just so happened that there was a Hollywood star ceremony that was happening. It was for one of the Avengers. And so we just went to check it out. She'd been living there a while, so she wasn't as thrilled as I was. But because it was for an Avenger, and at the time of the next Avengers movie coming out, the whole cast was there. And to be pushed out of the way from our spot by these people who get autographs, just turn around and sell them. And some of them brought their little children because they use that. It's crazy to me. And then that people turn around and buy them. Yeah. I don't understand.
So you had a bad experience? You had some of these autograph hounds push you out of the way?
Yeah. Like I'm just standing there to watch. I don't have like a Sharpie or anything to sign. I'm just here for the experience of watching how the ceremony works and seeing all these people that, I'm about to go watch their movie later. And these people are just hound dogs. And we had seen these same people like 2 nights earlier when we happened to be walking by Jimmy Kimmel's backlot and the Avengers were just coming out of doing that interview. And these same people just, I don't understand. It's almost like why did OJ go back to get his memorabilia? Like I can understand that more than I can understand other people vying for signatures just to go around and sell them.
What a couple more thoughts on cards that have insane price tags. The biggest price tag for an autographed card is the baseball card for Mike Trout, which has the record at $3.93 million. The previous record, and I've seen this card, and I've heard the 1909 Honus Wagner baseball card sold for $3.12 million, but the Mike Trout autographed baseball card sold for $3.93. Mike Trout. Now, I know Mike Trout is outstanding and he's good, but really?
Are these being sold at auctions that are for charities?
I don't think they're for charities.
I hope so, because again, I guess you're buying that card and holding on to it, hoping that it goes up in value, and then you're just going to sell it off again. Even though my thinking is the more hands it trades, the less valuable it gets.
Yeah. So weird, man. I don't get it, but obviously somebody does, and a lot of people do. And so that would not, the market wouldn't be what the market is for that stuff. But that is, I think there's a special place in the bowels of hell for adults who push kids out to get autographs and just use those kids as props to get autographs when it's really an adult who's just trying to get the autograph. That's awful.
Yeah, it was hard to watch.
All right. And we are approaching 7:20. So I'm actually going to be on time for this one since I've been late a lot lately. We do this at about 6:20 and we do this at 7:20 when I'm on time, and I'm on time now. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. We do it 12 times throughout the day. You get a lot more opportunities between now and 8:20 at night. Here it is.
Chance to win $1,000 is right now. Text the nationwide keyword FUN to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. Once again, that's FUN to 200-200. Good luck.
Good luck. The keyword is fun. So I saw this story, Shannon, and I'm looking at it right now. It's at TMZ Sports. And there is a woman who was a cheerleader at Northwestern University. Her name is Hayden Richardson, and she was a cheerleader at Northwestern from 2018 to 2020, and she is suing the university. She is suing Northwestern University because she says, I was treated like a sex kitten for drunk fans. Now, first of all, no woman should ever be demeaned. No woman should ever be on the receiving end of any inappropriate or sexual advances. I'm totally down with it. I was raised by 3 women. So I get it. I support women's rights. I support equality beyond everything. But let me just read you part of this story. An ex-Northwestern cheerleader is suing the school, claiming she was pressured to present herself as a sex kitten to please the fan base and subjected to sexual harassment and assault in the process. The woman behind the suit is Hayden Richardson, who cheered for the Wildcats from 2018 to 2020. But Hayden claims her run with the squad wasn't all pom-poms and backflips. Instead, she describes a living nightmare, which she was subjected to a hostile environment, including groping, harassments, and sexual touching by older alumni and intoxicated football fans, and the school did nothing to stop it. Now, obviously, if the school knew people were groping her or touching her, especially gross older alums, obviously the student has to intervene. But on the level of, I was treated like a sex kitten for drunken fans, I mean, on a certain level, you're going to encounter drunken fans. And on another level, if you're going to be a cheerleader, I mean, isn't there a a sexual aspect to that? I mean, you're not wearing like a metal suit. I mean, you are kind of volunteering to be objectified to a certain level, are you not? What do you think?
I mean, that is it's a fine line, right? But I do think that, you agree to wear the outfit and do the cheers. You have to know in the back of your mind somewhere that of the thousands and thousands of fans that are there, that someone is taking pleasure maybe in a way that they shouldn't be, but that's just something you can't help. When you mentioned that, because I hadn't seen the story, I immediately thought of the Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins, because there was an incident prior to this season that said that their cheer squad, something or other, were being used in a similar fashion. And that story just kind of seemed to disappear as the season went on. So it'd be interesting if this drums that back up. And I know there's always talk of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, which are certainly a really big deal, but the fact that they don't get paid, right? They get paid, just not nearly enough for the commitment that they put in, especially as a Cowboy cheerleader, where they just have all these other outside commitments and not just when they're home on Sundays playing football. This story, I mean, you think of Baylor, you think of Title IX, it's sad that she was in that situation. I'm glad she at least took herself out and didn't, it's not like she continued on for all 4 years of school and then said, well, wait a minute. She got out after her sophomore year. And at Northwestern too, that's just not.
That's a big time
school. It's a big time school. It's not necessarily a school. Their football program has really picked it up. But they're certainly not like a team that you would immediately think of, oh yeah, they're really great at football.
Yeah. And I want to make myself clear in case anybody misunderstood me. Obviously, and you mentioned the Washington football team, and some of the allegations there are that the cheerleaders were told, hey, go up to this suite and party with this guy. He's an investor in the football team. So, and I think one of the women who was a Washington cheerleader says that she was like at a function in a ballroom at a hotel, and she was told to go upstairs to the hotel room of some rich guy who was an investor in the football team. Obviously, that's god awful. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's illegal. Obviously, that should be prosecuted. And obviously, in the case of this Northwestern cheerleader, if indeed someone was touching her, someone was groping her, if that's way out of bounds, obviously, and that individual should be prosecuted. And certainly if the university knew that and did nothing about it, that's obviously should be stopped. But, and you mentioned the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, if you are going to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader and then you say, oh, I was objectified, people were looking at me in a sexual way, well, hello, that's kind of on a certain level that goes with the territory.
Right.
So, but yes, if anybody crosses the line, then that person should be held accountable. And certainly if the football team, in the case of Washington or Northwestern or the Dallas Cowboys, is a party to that, knows it's going on, and is not stopping it and making sure that does not happen to somebody, then that should be actionable. A lot of and I know we're up against a break, but a lot of like the San Antonio Spurs, for example, they had an all female cheering team. They were called the Silver Dancers, and they kind of did away with them a couple of years ago, and now they have a spirit squad that is male and female. And what I was just wondering is, in an era where there are lawsuits left and right, eventually someday there's going to be a male who wants to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader or wants to be on one of these all female cheerleading teams. And someone's going to say, well, you can't because you're a guy. And then you're going to run into a lawsuit.
Yeah, I think the Rams have the first male cheerleader on their squad. And I think another team has that one. That reminds me, there's a movie, old bad movie, but it's called Fired Up. And it's basically about two guys who decided to go to cheer camp because they want to be around all the cheerleaders, and that's their best way in. So, I mean, it's an interesting dilemma that I think more and more professional and collegiate and even high school programs are going to have to deal with. All right, coming up,
We're going to hear from The Weeknd, I do believe. The Weeknd, your halftime entertainment. Shannon likes The Weeknd, but not as much as Justin Timberlake. I'm just saying.
No.
So we'll
No
talk
one
more
will come close.
Super Bowl. I got to talk some Spurs. Speaking of the Spurs, they went from 4th place. I was all excited. I was all kind of cocky about the Spurs. Woo! How you like us now? We're number 4 in the West. They lose one game on Saturday night to Memphis. Now they're number 9 in the West. Technically, they're on the outside looking in for the moment. They play again tonight. We'll talk NBA, Spurs, NFL, and a whole lot more. Longhorns in action against Baylor tomorrow night. Number 2 versus, well, they were number 5, but we'll see where they land today. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris, with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's the Chris Duel Show. Leo Zambrano says, I always thought the male dance team for the Mavs was a brilliant idea to deal with sports sexism. Luisa says, go Spurs, go, and hook 'em horns. Armando is in Kentucky. Armando, welcome from Kentucky. Alan Green. I worked with Vice TV last week. The story was Pokemon cards. Unreal what people are spending for new cards. They stood in line to get into House of Cards on Vance Jackson. These millennials were spending $200 to $300 on packs of new cards. One guy spent $730. Apparently, they're worth a lot of money. Yeah, Steve Duraco has a Roger Staubach autographed card, but it was autographed by Roger for Steve. I was standing next to him when Roger did that in Roger's suite at Texas Stadium. Carl Fisher, I have a Pete Rose autograph, and it was personalized. It means more to me, and I will never sell it. Yeah, that's the way it should be. I mean, it should be for you. It should be personal memorabilia for you. Your Pete Rose card, Steve Duraco's Roger Staubach card, my Tom Landry football. I like that so much better. I show it sometimes. It's one of my, and Steve Duraco was involved with this. The second year the Spurs were around, and I could probably go find this and post it in here. Coca-Cola gave this card it was like laminated like a photo and had photos of all the Spurs and the coaches, Tom Nasalki and Rudy Davalos. And Steve Duraco and I used to hang out at the Hemisphere Arena as kids. So we got every Spurs autograph on it. And I somehow managed to hold on to it all of these years. And see, that was second year. So that was like 1974, 75. So see, 21 plus 26. It is 47 years old. I still have this. It's like one of my favorite pieces of memorabilia, but it was autographs that we got. So see if I can go find that on Facebook. Okay, I found that Spurs autograph. I'll put a link to it here. So we got everybody's autograph, and a lot of these guys, Bobby Warren has passed away. Bernie LaRue, the trainer, signed this. He's passed away. So Tom Nasalki, the Spurs coach, is no longer with us. Red McComb signed this. So anyway, I'll put this in the... Sorry, just put a link to it. James Silas, Donnie Freeman, George Gervin, my favorite Spur, Rich Jones. Then the other piece of memorabilia, I've told the story. Steve Duraco and I once stole an ABA basketball, red, white, and blue, from the Spurs. Now I do radio for them. Now I'm kind of technically sort of employed by them. When was that? Like 1975? It's pregame warm-ups. We're in the Hemisphere Arena, and we're just sitting there. And the last Spur warming up was Stan Love, who is actually the father of Kevin Love, now of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we're talking to him. He's shooting good. We used to talk to all the players. They were very accessible. So Stan Love's done. He runs into the locker room, and the ball he was shooting kind of rolled over our way. And we're sitting there, and it's like 45 minutes till tip-off, and the ball just kind of rolls to our feet. And Steve picks it up, and he looks at me, and I look at him. We get up, and we ran out of the Hemisphere Arena with the ball, ran to his car, put it in his trunk, and kept it. And we still have it after all these years. Maybe I should return it to the Spurs. I'm sorry. We stole this from you back in 1975. Yeah, I got it, Leo. I got to get Wally on the show. I've been meaning to. Walter Pasacreta. John says, I have an Elvis Presley autograph. All right, John. Did he autograph it to you or a member of your family? Or did you acquire the Elvis Presley autograph? Not to judge. Is this the weekend? Okay. Here we go. The weekend. Here we go. Shannon is grooving in Austin. The Weeknd. Will The Weeknd sing this song at halftime? The big halftime show.
I'm sure that's something you can bet on. Those prop bets go all over the place.
You can bet on everything. You're right. Good point. We'll have to find that. So I guess very few people have special Super Bowl plans. Any special Super Bowl plans, Shannon?
Might watch it with my family if I can convince them to be quiet. Other than that, no.
Yeah.
No, Pretty much the same for me. I think you and I have talked about this. We're just not big on Super Bowl parties.
I am not.
I think the people most at risk are the people that typically enjoy a good Super Bowl party.
Yeah, true. And once again, we said this and it was true about Thanksgiving and about Christmas, people gathering together in the era of COVID, it becomes a super spreader event. So I would just throw that out there. Think twice before you gather with people who are not members of your household for a Super Bowl party. This might not be the year to do it. So,
yeah, but better safe than sorry. I saw something that my county, they're opening the bars back up 50%. I'm like, oh, this weekend though?
What could possibly go wrong?
This weekend?
Yeah.
Y'all plan that.
And I mean, I get it. If you're a bar, you want to make money and you're probably struggling to keep your bar open. So you're doing what you can.
My fear is the idiots who go to some of these places and ruin it for everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy on Facebook, actually maybe on YouTube, Foamfoot420 says Jeremy looks like a young Matt Damon. You ever been told you look like Matt Damon before, Jeremy?
That is a first. I usually get the kid from Home Alone. I forget his name.
Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah, I do that.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I see that now.
I think I like being Matt Damon better.
Yeah, Matt Damon might.
He aged much better than Macaulay Culkin.
Hopefully, I will go the route of Matt Damon and not Macaulay Culkin.
What is Macaulay Culkin up to? Do we know? Is he one of those child actors who went horribly bad as an adult and got into trouble?
I think he's set himself straight now, but I think he did dabble in some substances in his 20s.
Some drugs might have happened.
Yeah, you could just tell by the look of him. I mean, he was a string bean.
Yeah, I saw some documentary maybe 6 months ago on Netflix about child actors and how rough it is on them and how they've gone. In fact, it was the guy, and I'm forgetting his name, but he's in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure opposite Keanu Reeves, whatever that guy's name is from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And he's the director of this documentary about child actors. And he was a child actor. So he speaks from experience. So it was kind of interesting. And somebody who's in the news this morning is in that documentary. Evan Rachel Wood, the actress. Do you know who she is?
I watched the documentary, so I remember her, and she looked familiar, but I don't know that I could name anything that she's been in. Yeah,
she was in a great movie that featured Beatles music, but she's in the news. I was this morning just going through news feeds. She was engaged to Marilyn Manson and had a long time relationship with Marilyn Manson and Across the Universe. Thank you. She was in the movie Across the Universe, which was really, really cool. But anyways, just this morning on her Instagram page, she apparently in concert with like 5 other women have come out and said that he was horribly abusive, physically and emotionally and verbally. That he's like who'd have guessed that Marilyn Manson is a really bad guy in real life?
He's scary looking. I don't know that claim or not if I would ever approach him.
Yeah.
But
I like his music though.
Yeah, there you go. But apparently not a good guy.
Not a good guy, and apparently not a good performer. I've heard nothing but bad things about his backstage antics.
Really? Okay.
So don't perform with Marilyn Manson. If either of you two ever have that opportunity, don't do it. Okay?
Care to share any of his backstage antics, or are they even speakable on radio?
Just that he was kind of bad in general. Like, he would perform with Rob Zombie, and apparently Rob Zombie was like the coolest guy ever. And Marilyn Manson like wouldn't even thank people when they brought him food, and he wouldn't even come out on stage when it was his turn. And Rob Zombie would have to go out and apologize and be like, sorry, I guess I'll perform instead. So if you're gonna perform with somebody, go with Rob Zombie.
Well, and to me, there's nothing worse than an entertainer, either a musician or an actor or a comedian, who is a jerk in real life. I mean, you go into, whether it's music or art of any kind or acting, you go into it to provide an experience for people, to entertain people. with your music or your acting or your art or whatever it is, and then you're going to be an idiot. You're going to be a jerk in real life. I've never understood that, and I've never had time for those people.
It's the same with athletes, right? I mean, part of the deal when they play professionally is that you have to deal with the media. And I understand some media members are just the ones that are just out for bait, right? And they do anything they can to get something to throw on a headline, and they're not always great to deal with. But a majority of them are good people who are just doing their job. And when you pull like a Marshawn Lynch or the other athletes who just refuse to answer, Russell Westbrook can be a hard guy to get anything from at times. It's part of your job, man.
Yeah.
It's literally in your contract. You get fined for not doing it. So make the most of it and maybe try and come off like a nice and normal human being and not self-righteous Mr. Basketball, football, whatever player.
Yeah, and especially when you're in that space. Now, I've seen, and I've cringed, I've seen athletes in restaurants and fans, they're with their family and they're trying to eat a meal and fans approach them. It's, I've seen it and it's like, oh God, don't do that. Please let the man eat with his family and with his kids. And I get it. A private moment, especially with your family, you should be entitled to your privacy. And I can understand your frustration if you're saying, please don't bother me here. But as you mentioned, Shannon, in a press setting, in a media gaggle after a game when there's a media availability and you're there to answer media questions. Yeah, I never liked or appreciated Marshawn Lynch's little shtick.
And that's where people don't like Aaron Rodgers, right? Because just after they got knocked out of the playoffs, he has his little post-game interview and I don't know what the future holds, this, that, and the other. And then he goes on to one of his friends' shows the next day and he's like, oh, they're just turning it into a bigger story than what it is. It's just, nobody knows what the future holds. And come on, dude. In this age where everything can be taken, any video, any audio, and then just that can be shared, why would you not be on your best behavior when you know the camera and the mic are on?
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers especially is very media savvy. He knows every sentence will be dissected. So when he's saying something about the mystery of the future and he doesn't know where he's going to be next year, he knows that's going to have a huge impact, and it did. So speaking of Aaron Rodgers, did you know, and we talked earlier this morning, Shannon, about the trade that the Los Angeles Rams made to get Matthew Stafford before they went and got Matthew Stafford from the Detroit Lions. Multiple reports say that the Rams made a run at Aaron Rodgers. The Rams contacted the Green Bay Packers and they wanted to make a deal and bring Aaron Rodgers to the Rams. So, what you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers talking about his future and the doubt, and he wasn't sure where he'd wind up after losing that NFC Championship game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Within days, if not the next day, the LA Rams wanted him and wanted to make a deal.
Well, you think about the Packers, if I'm the Rams, they drafted a quarterback in the first round last year. It seems like they are preparing for their future. What if they offered them the same thing that the Detroit Lions ultimately got, a couple first-round picks? On top of that, I don't know why the Packers would have turned it down unless they know for sure that Aaron is fine, everything's good, and he's coming back to play again.
You make a huge point. They drafted Jordan Love in the first round. If they would have offered the same deal, Jared Goff to the Packers, and the deal that the Lions got, number 3 this year and number 1 picks in 2022 and 2023. If you're the Packers and you were eventually going to move on from Aaron Rodgers, you put Jared Goff in place for now, see how that works. And if it doesn't work, you've got the dude you just drafted number 1, and then you've got all those draft picks coming. I mean, if I were the Green Bay Packers, I'd almost make that deal myself.
Yeah, if anything, they realized that they should be the ones going to the Super Bowl. It wasn't player personnel that they needed fixing. It was coaching decisions and not keeping the ball in the hands of your MVP quarterback.
And that does, if you think about it, if indeed the Rams made the same offer, and I think at this point we should assume that they did, because
he's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he's Aaron Rodgers, and you made that deal for Matthew Stafford. I think you would at least offer that for Aaron Rodgers. if you're Aaron Rodgers now, you've got to truly believe that the Packers are ready to stand with you and ride you as late as you want to ride as quarterback. And you also have to wonder, you look at Tom Brady when he was unhappy with Jimmy Garoppolo being brought in as his backup and his ultimate heir apparent, which was the belief in New England. And, Brady went to Robert Kraft and voiced his displeasure, and Robert Kraft reportedly told Bill Belichick, Garoppolo's got to go. You've got to wonder if Aaron Rodgers is in the process of doing the same thing in Green Bay. It's like,
and I'd wonder where they send him, because Garoppolo ended up on the other side of the country. And because of the timeout that Tom Brady spent that season, Garoppolo was able to shine a little bit, giving him that starting opportunity in San Francisco. I don't know what we have with Mr. Love, so I assume he would end up as a backup somewhere else in the league.
And interestingly, I remember on the draft boards, Jordan Love was kind of by a lot of people projected as a high number 2. I think people were surprised that the Packers would draft a quarterback at all when you've got Aaron Rodgers sitting there apparently in the prime of his career. And then the guy they did go after was a guy listed as a high number 2 on a lot of other people's boards. So it was kind of a head scratcher on a couple of levels.
Yeah, I think Packers Nation is still wondering why, of all the people, did we get this guy? Especially when you have the situation they had playing against Tampa Bay, and he's over there holding a clipboard while you could have had a guy come in, make an immediate impact, and maybe push them forward just enough to get them to that Super Bowl this season. But no.
Well, and each of the last 2 years, as you mentioned, Tampa Bay, you've gone to the NFC Championship, a year ago against the 49ers and got pretty much blown out. And then this year you're at home and you're going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you were favored, I think, by 3.5 points. So, you could have had an impact player somewhere on your offensive line, in your secondary, another wide receiver, although as it turned out, the Packers did just fine at wide receiver this year.
Yeah, they always seem to have a good group of guys. They kept mentioning Randall Cobb and how they didn't have a guy like him, but as my memory serves, they were pretty much done with Randall Cobb and ready for him to go after he served his time. So I didn't understand those comments. But yeah, almost anybody at any position, even if they were a backup but still saw the field, it would have been more of an impact than what Love has done for that team.
You mentioned Randall Cobb, and of course, he spent a season with Dallas, and then Mike McCarthy comes in, and you think, okay, he's going to be a big part of what Mike McCarthy does. And then Randall Cobb wound up with the Texans. Is that right? I think and then he kind of disappeared there. I mean, he didn't make a lot of noise with the Texans.
It was really hit or miss this last season, as with most of the Texans have been.
Yeah. What a mess. What a mess the Houston Texans are. And we talked about this earlier as well. You've got to wonder, with the deal that the Los Angeles Rams made with the Detroit Lions to acquire Matthew Stafford, trading Jared Goff, a number 3 this year, and then 2 number 1s in each of the next 2 years, that's got to at least, I would think, be the asking price for the Houston Texans. And then, and as we mentioned, Shannon, that is just further complicated by the fact that Deshaun Watson has a no trade clause in his contract. So, I guess you've got to ask him before you start working with another team to make a deal. And indications are he's interested in the New York Jets. So maybe a similar deal sends Sam Darnold to the Texans, along with a lot of picks from the Jets. But it's not going to be easy to do a deal unless somebody really, really, really wants Deshaun Watson at his contract, and it's a pretty hefty contract.
Yeah, Deshaun is in quite the situation. Not something as easy, I think, as we will have seen with Matthew and Jared. And by the way, our poll right now, Los Angeles Rams leading the way with which team won that Matthew Stafford Jared Goff trade.
Wow, I thought a lot of people were voting Detroit early, so it's flipped the other way now.
Yeah, it's flipped now. I guess they really believe the Rams are in win now mode.
It's going to be very fascinating to see if it works. And again, Matthew Stafford for the longest time, and I've said it as well, and I've believed it. You just look at his mechanics and what he's able to do as quarterback. And you just think he just wound up in a really bad franchise and was unable to succeed in that franchise. Yet there are some people who say, you know, you look at who he had, and when he had Megatron at wide receiver, you know, there were a lot of games that you would have expected Matthew Stafford would have found a way to win, yet did not win. So it's going to be put up or shut up time for Matthew Stafford now with the Los Angeles Rams, I would think.
Yeah, he's got no excuses now with the Rams as he did with Detroit, where you could, you know, throw a dart and land on some sort of excuse that would help you get through the next season. Because we've had seasons just in the recent years where they were questioning if they were going to just get rid of Matthew Stafford, that he was possibly the problem in Detroit. So now it's his time to prove that he was not the problem. He is a great quarterback, and he does have the ability to do what the Rams brought him in to do.
You look at that NFC West, you know, obviously last year, the Cowboys division, the NFC East, was god-awful and historically one of the worst divisions in the history of football. But now the Rams with Matthew Stafford, you got the Seattle Seahawks in that division. They're always good. The Arizona Cardinals are now very, very relevant with Kyler Murray. And the 49ers get everybody back from injury this year. And we'll see what they do at quarterback. Deshaun Watson might be their quarterback. You never know. That NFC West is crazy. That's such a good division. It's going to be amazing to see who wins that division and who doesn't go to the playoffs from that division, because they all look like playoff teams.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite from what us as Dallas Cowboys fans experience year in and year out.
We'll talk more football. We are breaking the law. Thank you very much, Jeremy Fouts, your soundscape stylist. In studio, Tanner Carlson. We'll talk some football and more. Tanner's a huge Longhorns fan. Longhorns versus Baylor tomorrow night. We'll probably get into that as well. Don't go anywhere. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out. It's the Chris Duel Show. Luckily, I sneezed after the segment. I had to sneeze for like the final 30 seconds there. All right. I'm going to grab coffee. I'll be back in about 90. Tanner Carlson coming in studio. Good morning, Beth Settle. How are you, Beth? Good morning.
Sports.
Wow, look at that. Nice video. I'll do that. Got a little video coming from Shannon. Check that out.
Sports.
Thanks, Foamfoot. What kind of coffee are you drinking? You say you're dragon? Yeah, Carl, I'm going Chiefs on this one. I'm ready for the new era. Pat Mahomes. No matter how annoying people find his family. Good. McDonald's coffee. I bet they gave you decaf. I had to go to Starbucks this morning because I wasn't by my Dunkin'. Not the same. Carl Fisher asked, did everyone see that MLB will not play 154 games? Do we care about the MLB outside of October?
Hector says, I am sticking with the old-timer Brady on Sunday to win. There will be plenty of time for Mahomes to win more Super Bowls. Hector, I hope you're right. I want Brady to win. And
so we're going head-to-head.
Since I picked Tampa Bay over Kansas City at the beginning of the season, I have to stick with my pick. So, spoiler alert, although it was obvious, I'm going to be picking the Buccaneers to win.
What type of music do I like? Well, Justin Timberlake. Anything my parents listen to. And top 40, because I'm not that interesting.
Tanner Carlson expected to come in studio. We got a lot more echo when Tanner was here last time. So I might experiment. Let me see here. I might, when Tanner speaks, mute my mic to see if that mitigates the echo a little bit if he's in here. Foamfoot 420, how do you know about Charlie Parker's motor oil coffee? That's funny that you know that. Charlie is right down the hall. So anyway, just for you, Shannon, if Tanner comes in here and he's 3 minutes away, if he's going to show up, if he does his camera, I'm going to experiment with muting my microphone when he speaks. That might help us on echo. Oh, so I was going to mention this. So the Sports Illustrated is all about The Hangover. And so it's about teams that have a Super Bowl hangover, right? And right here it says, right there, getting to the Super Bowl is easy. Here's why getting back is hard. Getting to the Super Bowl is easy? Tell that to the Dallas Cowboys, for God's sake. It's been 1996, January of 96, when getting to the Super Bowl is not easy. Here comes Tanner Carlson. Cover of Sports Illustrated about Super Bowl hangovers says, getting to the Super Bowl is easy. Getting back is what's bull crap. Yeah, no, tell that to Cowboys fans. Just get there once again in my lifetime, Cowboys.
Baseball is an awesome sport.
So you're going to fire up the camera?
Yeah.
Good, because
I completely blanked. I don't have my headphones or anything. Do you have a pair that I
don't think I do. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to mute my camera when let me forward you the link. I'm going to mute my camera, copy link address. So hopefully we'll still be okay.
And I totally spaced on the charging my phone and stuff, so it may conk out halfway through.
Maybe it'll surprise you. So there's the link. Okay, I'm sending it to you right now. Let's see. Let me look. I'm 99.
Leo, what is Robinhood?
Oh, if you want power.
Because the app name itself
That should be plugged
sounds concerning.
Perfect. So we solved
I've
that.
never heard of it until Friday.
Anyway, it doesn't matter about
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, just take your volume as low as you can take it.
Yeah.
We'll hear it, but we'll get over it.
I mean, I look too good to be on today.
Exactly. Tanner does not belong on radio. He's too damn good looking.
That's not what I meant, but I do appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Tan Man the Monkey Man. Here we come. Okay, that's your microphone. Okay.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
Super Bowl week has begun, and the week began with a weekend that involved a big trade among quarterbacks in the National Football League. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Special in-studio guest is Tanner Carlson. Just letting the doors finish. I'm Chris Duel, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Your soundscape stylist is Jeremy Fouts. We love bringing him in studio. You can see him on Facebook Live. We stream live video now. He is the lovely and talented Tanner Carlson. Tanner, what is going on, man?
Oh, man, a big weekend, big sports weekend. The first quarterback domino has fallen, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of effect this has on the rest of the NFL offseason.
And before we talk NFL, because Shannon and I haven't talked about this yet,
okay.
Speaking of quarterbacks that are near and dear to our heart, Sam Ehlinger throws a touchdown pass in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Did you get to see that?
I didn't really watch the Senior Bowl all that much. There were two Longhorns in it, Taquan Graham and Sam. And so, but yeah, I mean, it was just a little screen pass in the red zone, but it was the first touchdown of the ball game. So he got him off to a good start, you know? So, I mean, and then the other Texas quarterback, Texas A&M quarterback, Kellen Mond, he had a pretty good game as well. So for all the Aggie fans who hopefully are not listening. No, I'm kidding. You're welcome to listen in, but we're a Longhorn fan show here.
Unlike a lot of Longhorn fans, and I am a Longhorn fan, I also like and appreciate the Aggies. I know people who are Longhorns who hate the Aggies,
right.
Not me.
I pushed, as a diehard Longhorn fan, I pushed for A&M to have that 4th spot in the playoffs this year. I thought that they had deserved a shot at it more so than a team who had played 5 games in the regular season. So, but anyway, yeah, I know the Senior Bowl is important for a lot of football teams, especially the Dallas Cowboys. There's a Dallas Cowboys stat out there. I think there has been 1 Senior Bowl player taken in the last, I want to say, 6 or 7 Cowboy drafts. So there will be more than likely someone who played this weekend at the Senior Bowl on the Dallas Cowboy roster, which I wouldn't mind, using a 5th or 6th round pick on a guy like Ellinger to be a backup. He's better than DiNucci. So,
I'll take Ellinger over DiNucci right now.
Not about him, and you bring him back up into our world.
I'm sorry. He may not be in our world for much longer, so don't worry about it. But, who would you rather have, a Sam Ellinger or Garrett Gilbert or Ben DiNucci? I'd rather have a Sam Ellinger.
Amen.
Especially in the offense that we run that requires a mobile quarterback. He can do a little something. He may not, take us to the promised land, but he'd be a good little Band-Aid.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Shannon, did you see Sam Ellinger's performance in the Senior Bowl?
He did all right. He did throw the first touchdown for his team, but he didn't get nearly as much playing time as Kellen Mond. But they did get the win, that team. So he has that to walk away with.
Yeah, I thought it was probably a very good experience for him.
Yeah, and I think Graham got a sack or whatever they allow, whatever they allow to be a sack. I think it's a glorified scrimmage. Yeah, so which is always good to see. And he's kind of another, for some reason these Texas defensive linemen are super undervalued. And it might be the Big 12 bias in terms of the Big 12 doesn't play defense kind of a thing that goes against them. But every year we see an interior defensive lineman from the Texas Longhorns making an impact somewhere in the NFL, whether that be Malcolm Brown at the Patriots or whoever it may be. I know Poona Ford had a really good season for the Seattle Seahawks this year, and they're always extremely undervalued, and they go 4th, 5th round. So you might be able to get a guy like Graham for the Cowboys who have a particular need at that position later on in the draft.
That would be nice. All right, in studio, Tanner Carlson, you mentioned you were alluding to this, and I diverted you into Sam Ellinger.
That's fine.
The big weekend story: the LA Rams make a trade with the Detroit Lions. The Rams trade Jared Goff, a number 3 this year, and 2 number 1 picks in 2022 and 2023 for Matthew Stafford. Our poll question is, who won this trade? Did the Rams win this trade, getting Matthew Stafford, or did the Lions win this trade, getting Jared Goff and 3 significant draft picks?
I would say Matthew Stafford won the trade. He is out of Detroit, and he is in LA. He's moving his family to Los Angeles, going from Detroit. So just as a personal standpoint and a franchise standpoint and a coaching standpoint, Matthew Stafford has won this trade. He is with Sean McVay, the quarterback guru, offensive guru of the NFL. He's in the land of angels or whatever they call Los Angeles. And so, I have an odd opinion on this trade. I think the price was a little steep to give away 2 first-round picks for Stafford. He's what, 33?
32 right now.
32 right
Probably
now.
33 by the time the season starts.
Right. So, I think it's a little steep, but the Lions are also taking on Jared Goff's contract. So they said, you know what, if we're going to take on that huge contract of a guy that you're trying to get rid of, then we need a little extra something. We need a little extra capital in the draft. And so they kind of gave him those extra picks. So I thought it was a little steep, but at the same time, here's kind of the way I look at it. Did the Rams get better at the most important position in the sport? My opinion would be yes. I think talent-wise, Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback and more experienced than Jared Goff. And now he's got a coach who can actually bring the best out of him, whereas in Detroit, he's been in a coaching cycle since he got drafted. The only talent he's ever had at Detroit was Calvin Johnson, which, in my opinion, is probably the greatest wide receiver of all time up there with Jerry Rice. So, I mean, that's all you've had your entire career, and he only played for, however long during Stafford's career. So did they get better? Yes. And then also the Rams are looking for a playoff run. I mean, they're looking for a run to another Super Bowl at some point. And so if they thought that Jared Goff was the main reason why they weren't getting back to that game, and they think Stafford's their guy, then, I mean, I don't see why it would be a bad trade for the Rams. And then, I mean, you're giving your draft picks to the Lions, who are those draft picks more than likely are going to be within the 18 to 30 range, more than likely. And what have they ever done in any draft that has made you regret anything that they've done, you know, picking in the top 10 for the last 20 years, and they've yet to do anything with those picks. So I don't think you're going to be like, man, they picked our guy with our pick that is going to be the superstar. You know, I don't think you have that much faith in the Lions organization to make you regret it that much. So I don't know. I'm kind of wishy-washy on it, but I didn't necessarily think it was such a highway robbery type of a trade for the Lions as a lot of people out there are saying it was.
You make a great point. If the Rams are going to do what the Rams think they're going to do, and that's be knocking on the door of the Super Bowl, these two number one picks in 2022 and 2023 are almost second round picks. If they're going to be around, you know, number 23, 24, 27,
right,
then they're not that. You hear number one pick and you go, ooh, that's maybe a number 6. But no, not at all.
Yeah, and another thing about that is, you know, do you know who the last first round pick the Rams took?
Jared Goff. I looked it up today.
No, but it was in 2016. So it's not like they've been using first round picks to get to where they're at today anyway. They're building through value picks in the second, third, and fourth in the draft, and then they're doing a lot of their work. And that we saw in the Super Bowl, the majority of their roster is made up in free agency. They sign big guys for 1-year deals, 2-year deals, and then they move on, and then they do this. They, you know, repeat that same process to build the roster that they have. They're not building through the draft like a lot of fans and a lot of teams and a lot of people in the media like myself who love the draft want these teams to do. They just don't value it as much. And that's their GM and that's their ownership and their coaching staff's mindset of, hey, we can do more, if not better, in free agency with guys that we know what they can and cannot do on the field than an unknown and a rookie.
And it seems to be working for the Rams. Shannon, did you hear the one team that Matthew Stafford said he doesn't want to be traded to? He said he'd go to any team in the NFL except for one team. Did you hear that?
Yeah, the Patriots, because former head coach of the Lions, Matt Patricia, is back over there working in those hallways. And apparently that relationship was not something he wished to rekindle.
It's kind of a nice shot out the door.
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere but where this dude is.
Right. And I kind of feel that that's the same way I want to shut this down as quickly as possible for Cowboy fans out there. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Dallas Cowboy because of who our head coach is. Not because it's the Dallas Cowboys, not because of Jerry Jones, not because of our roster, but just because of Mike McCarthy. And that's the only reason why that will never happen.
And, oh, by the way, did you hear the Rams did approach the Packers for Aaron Rodgers before Matthew Stafford?
Is that? Oh, I did not.
That came out this morning as well.
Okay.
Their first phone call was to the Packers trying to make a deal for Aaron Rodgers.
That would be a Super Bowl winning team right there. That would scare me half to death if I was in that division. And as an NFC fan, my team is in the NFC conference. So that team, that Rams team would be Super Bowl favorites if Rodgers was on that roster.
Speaking of the Super Bowl week is here, even though it'll be a little weird. It would have been, I think today would have been media day, or it's early in the week. But of course, all the media days are now on Zoom. So that'll be completely different. Chiefs staying in Kansas City, I think, until Saturday.
Yeah.
They're going to mosey on in the day before and just treat it like any other road game in the regular season. Any change in your belief as to how this Super Bowl is going to play out?
My only thing would be, and people overthink the Super Bowl so much. You know, it's so overanalyzed in terms of the preparation that goes into it. And so now the big storyline is how much of an advantage do the Buccaneers have having their regular training room and not having to move all their stuff over into a weird hotel and a makeshift training room where tables and this, that, and the other, you know, and they have all their facilities. They have their weight room. They don't have some makeshift hotel weight room that they have to work out in or whatever, you know? So like, do you think that that's an actual advantage of having your facility, having your equipment just there at the ready for you and you're comfortable with that? Or do you think that that's going to be more of like a, man, we can just kind of mosey along this bye week and not really take things serious? I mean, surely you're taking everything at this point seriously.
The freaking Super Bowl.
Right. So I don't know. I try not to overanalyze things, but those thoughts in my mind start creeping up. Is like, no one's had a home game for a Super Bowl before, so are they just using all their just regular equipment and they have that advantage?
Well, I think it's got to be a subtle advantage. Plus, you're on your home field. Even though it's COVID and the fans in the stands are going to be different, it would have been different anyway in the Super Bowl because you got so many corporate tickets. Even if it were a full stadium in Tampa Bay, it still wouldn't be like a home game per se for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There still would have probably been plenty of Chief fans and plenty of non-Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans in the stands.
It's more of a sporting event than it is a like football, your team versus their team event. It's like if you watch in the stands, you've got Packers jerseys, Browns jerseys, Lions jerseys, Bears. You've got every jersey in the NFL there. You've got basketball jerseys and celebrities, and it's not a football game atmosphere. It's a big sporting event because it's just the football holiday of the world, and so I mean this is the sports world's Christmas. It's the best and the biggest and the thing that everybody wants to be a part of. So you're right. I don't know necessarily how much of a home field advantage in terms of the fans and the atmosphere that they're going to have.
When
Shannon,
you mentioned the workout rooms and getting to use their normal stuff that they are used to during the season, with Kansas not even coming in until the day before the game, they're just treating it like a road game that they've done all season long. So they are getting that same treatment. The only difference is they're just flying in a day before versus, the Bucs will get that extra night in their own bed.
So, I mean, other than the 1 day of travel or 1 day early travel, you're right. I mean, I don't think it's going to play that much of a difference. And I was listening to an interview. I think Dan Patrick, who comes on after you, was interviewing Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes was like, dude, if you're not ready for the Super Bowl, like, what are you doing? You're not a professional athlete if not every single person is prepared for this moment, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the obstacles are ahead of us this week in preparation. You better be prepared. It's the freaking Super Bowl.
And I can't, I'm going to pick the Bucs, spoiler alert, because I picked them at the beginning of the season when we made our NFL predictions. Right. But I can't see the Bucs winning this game without some turnovers. I mean, if these teams play straight up, Kansas City is just such a pinball machine offensively with Patrick Mahomes. If it's a track meet and a scoring fest, even with Tom Brady in this offense, I don't think Tampa Bay can keep up with them. They're going to need some turnovers. They're going to need some turnovers deep in Kansas City territory. Do you think this is a tight game? Do you think Kansas City wins by double digits? How do you feel about the outcome?
I think it's going to be a close game. And I think the Super Bowl has this funny thing of doing the exact opposite of what everybody thinks it's going to be. I think everyone is so focused in on the quarterbacks. Everyone's so focused on, Brady throwing 3 touchdown passes, Mahomes throwing for 500 yards, in this big shootout between these offenses that have the talent to make it a shootout. But the Super Bowl has a funny way of humbling all of us and in the media world of what we think the game is going to be. I could see this being a fairly low scoring game. I could see it being like a 27-24 game, something kind of gritty and very defensive and kind of a feeling out process where both of these two teams. I don't think it's going to be Tyreek Hill having 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first quarter like it was in the regular season. I don't think that's what it's going to be. On the other side of things, I could see it being 42-38, so I don't know. This year it's tough because you do have the great quarterbacks, but the defenses are both kind of no-name defenses, if you will, that haven't gotten a lot of credit or haven't gotten a lot of recognition.
Now, Super Bowl is going to be on our minds throughout the week because it's Super Bowl week, but especially Longhorn fans get a little treat tomorrow. Number 2 Baylor versus the Texas Longhorns. It is at the Frank Irwin Center. And obviously the Longhorns have had COVID issues lately. What do you look for tomorrow night?
The Oklahoma game was probably the worst game that I've seen Texas basketball play this season. They came out kind of rusty. They came out sloppy. They didn't have, Shock on the sidelines. They only had 8 guys in their rotation. And so, yeah, they've kind of had some issues, but your starters still need to step up and play big in the face of adversity. And so I think this is a big game, obviously, for it being Baylor and Texas, 2 top 10 teams being ranked in terms of Big 12 rankings and going into the Big 12 tournament and this, that, and the other. But more so just like of your star guys, your senior guys, your freshmen, your Greg Brown, of if your star players are out there, then you've got to play your best basketball, regardless of the circumstance that you're going to be facing with your head coach, without your head coach, without rotation guys, this, that, and the other. So, you know, you need big games out of a Matt Coleman or a Greg Brown or, you know, a Kai Jones. You need these guys, these role players, to really step up and really play well, because you're not at full strength. Now, hopefully you can kind of get all this COVID junk out of the way at this point in the season, and then you really don't hopefully have to deal with it in March, where you want to be healthy and you want to have a full strength of your squad. So it'll be interesting. Baylor's no joke. They're solid. They are by far 1A and 1B with Gonzaga and Baylor, and then there's kind of everybody else.
Yeah.
Everyone else is kind of head and shoulders below the rest of them. So it'll be interesting. I just want Texas to come out and play strong, quick, energized, and mistake-free, unlike they did against Oklahoma. That's all I'm asking for. If they win or lose, that's one thing, neither here nor there. But I just want a clean game played, and them not to look so rusty and out of shape and just kind of all over the place and unorganized like they did against Oklahoma. That's what bothered me the most about that game.
Shannon, do we know about Shaka Smart? Is Shaka Smart back from his COVID quarantine?
I think we can assume that he is. We'll actually hear from him later today, so we'll be able to give you a full rundown of that tomorrow. But Tanner hit it on the head. I mean, it was just a sloppy game versus Oklahoma. It certainly didn't help that the refs were calling every single foul that you can imagine, fouls that didn't even seem like fouls, right? I mean, Texas got in foul trouble early, so the guys they did have on the floor ended up having to sit a lot longer than we would have liked them to. And then towards the end of the game, no one was fouling when we needed a foul. So I believe it was Matt Coleman who went over there and got the extra foul to put Oklahoma on the line. But then he was, of course, out of the game when you need him on the floor the most. So, and I understand, you didn't have your coach. You maybe took a timeout where you shouldn't have. You don't need a timeout to set up your press. You do need a timeout for some last second shot opportunities. So it little things here and there, but overall just a sloppy performance against Oklahoma. So if they can tighten that up, there's no reason they can't go toe to toe with Baylor. And certainly, I mean, everyone would love a win, right? Baylor's 16-0 right now, the number 2 team in the country. Texas will probably drop from number 5 tomorrow when the rankings come out. So they'd love to push themselves back up into the rankings, back into the top 5 with a win over a huge team. And like we mentioned earlier, there's a possibility that fans will be in attendance. So that should energize them in a way that they haven't had for some time.
Yeah, 16-0. You mentioned like Gonzaga, Baylor undefeated. It would be nice for the Longhorns to hand them a loss here tomorrow night. It
would be great. And then I'm kind of upset that we didn't get to play Kentucky, because Kentucky, this big blue blood team who's kind of terrible this year, you would think would have been a win. And you could say Shaka Smart beat North Carolina, Kansas, and Kentucky all in one season. And then going up against Baylor, kind of just a confidence boost, just kind of a morale boost, which I think this Texas team desperately needs. And, I would have really loved to play that game just because, Kentucky kind of sucks this year. So it would have been nice to have kind of a cheap win over a blue blood team like that.
It would have saved the Big 12 SEC challenge, right? Because the SEC ultimately won that challenge 5-4, but Texas didn't get the opportunity to tie it back up.
You're pretty confident that to me, they're, even though they were like 5-10, they're still Kentucky, and
right?
They were playing at like Rupp Arena. So I wanted to see that game, but I was not as confident as you are that Texas would have won that game.
I'm only confident because I'm a diehard Longhorn fan, and Kentucky finally is awful this year. So I finally get to say, Texas would have destroyed Kentucky.
And Texas is undefeated on the road this year. So had that going for them too.
The worst home team than they are a road team. That sounds like a football team that I'm well aware of and that I root for.
Texas 11-3 overall, 5-2 in the Big 12. Baylor 16-0 and 8-0 in the Big 12. That'll be tomorrow night, 6. That is on ESPN, so they'll have a national television audience. Tanner Carlson is a great follow on Twitter at Tanner Carlson 20. Great stuff as always. We will get your official Super Bowl pick on Thursday.
We doing squares or anything?
I don't know.
We should get
something.
we should get a pool going. Some kind of with those bets, all the side bets. What colored Gatorade's going to be and all that.
Well, with like 7 people in the building, if we do squares, we each better get a bunch of squares.
You're right.
So, Tanner, great stuff, man. We'll do it again later in the week.
Yeah, sounds good.
Coming up, Andy Everett, the voice of UTS.
Definitely gonna die.
Yeah, and I should have thought of this last time. I usually have this in here, so grab it next time.
I gained some percentage.
Woo! Nice.
Up from 40 to 47.
Very nice.
All right, man.
All right.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, we can do like predictions on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll probably name a score. Yeah, we'll each see who comes closest. So.
Did you also see? I retweeted a couple times. And I know it's kind of surfacing on Twitter, but with Goff getting traded, Dak is the only quarterback in the 2016 class that hasn't been benched or traded or is on the same roster that he was drafted.
That is amazing. Somebody put the order of quarterbacks drafted and what happened to all of them.
Yeah, and I meant to mention that, but but it's funny that he's the only one that is still either on his same roster or hasn't been benched.
Wow. Some guy drafted ahead of Dak who's out of the league now.
I think there were a couple.
Yeah.
Christian Hackenberg and Hackenberg.
Wow. That's right. Amazing.
Hackenberg didn't even play a snap. He didn't even play a single snap.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Wow.
But it's not easy to draft a quarterback in this league.
Yeah. All the more reason why I think the Texans should appease Deshaun Watson in any way they can.
And I love that relationship. It's mendable. I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it.
Anyway.
Thanks, man. Sam Tobias says Kansas City is the pinball machine and Patrick Mahomes is the pinball wizard. Nice Who reference. Martin Ramirez says Giga Maggies. Eddie Mike Fisher says, how many people go to Vegas for the Super Bowl? Good question. I hope they socially distance if they go. What's happening?
Question.
Yeah.
You say you're a Longhorn fan, but you did go to USC.
True.
Who were you rooting for in the Rose Bowl?
USC.
Okay. Next thing is, since you're talking about Aggies and Longhorns, did you hear about the Aggie that broke his leg on the golf course?
No.
He fell off the ball washer.
Very nice. Very nice. That was David Munoz. Carl Fisher says, I can tell you the Tampa Bay defense will show up in the Super Bowl. They better, Carl. A lot is needed from that Tampa Bay defense. Getting to the Super Bowl is easy. Tell it to the Cowboys. Where is that? There it is. Getting to the Super Bowl is easy. Yeah? You think? Cowboys are just an embarrassment. And they make infinitely more money than everybody else. Thank you, Jerry Jones. Thank you, sir. Oh, I've got it.
Let me see here.
Sam Tobias, I think Dak Prescott remains a Dallas Cowboy, although I've seen some reporting in the Dallas Morning News where there's some Cowboys beat reporters saying there's more doubt than people think that, with each passing day, there is a chance that the Cowboys might be thinking something else at quarterback. But I think the smart money is they're going to sign him. Here we come. Pablo Perez, good morning. Welcome back. It is the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist. Every Monday at this time, we check in with the voice of UTSA athletics. He's also the host of the golf show on Ticket 760 in San Antonio on Saturday mornings at 8. The one and only Andy Everett. Andy, welcome back in. How you doing this morning? I am doing very well. Before we talk a little bit about UTSA basketball, let's talk about what's going on in the National Football League. Not only has Super Bowl week begun, but we had a big trade over the weekend in the National Football League. The Los Angeles Rams acquiring quarterback Matthew Stafford from the Detroit Lions in exchange for their quarterback Jared Goff, a number 3 draft pick, a third-round draft pick this year, and then 2 number 1s in each of the next 2 years. Our poll question for this morning is, who won this trade? Did the Rams win this trade by getting Matthew Stafford, or did Detroit win the trade by getting Goff and a whole bunch of draft picks?
Now, I would say Detroit did, but that would be determined on what Matthew Stafford is able to do in Los Angeles, and if they can win a Super Bowl or even get to a couple of Super Bowls, then Los Angeles has certainly won the trade. There's always the general manager creed, I guess, is always, I don't care about winning tomorrow if I can win today. And you take as many as you can for as long as you can, and then you worry about the future when the future gets here. And that's the way a lot of GMs and a lot of owners have operated for a number of years. So I think number one thing on the Rams' mind, but they've given up a lot. My concern with Detroit, I think Matthew Stafford's a great quarterback. And the reason that I think he struggled in Detroit is because I've always labeled Detroit as one of those teams that they talk about wanting to win, but they never really do anything in order to win. They've been through 17 general managers, it seems like, in the last 20 years. They have a rotation of coaches. They don't seem to have any direction. And all of that comes from having an owner that, for the most part, I think the Ford family has owned it, and they've kind of taken a back seat to it. I think you have to have some hands-on as an owner, but then you have to go hire football people and let them make those decisions. And when a football person says, hey, I need this in order to get that, if you're not willing to give it to them, then you're really not interested in winning. And if I'm Jared Goff, I'm telling my agent, I'm going to give Detroit whatever's left on my contract. And when it's over with and I'm a free agent, I'm out of here if they're not going to change the way that they've done business over the years. And that to me is, Detroit, I think, is one of maybe 2 teams, Cleveland the other, that's never been to a Super Bowl of the 32 teams that are in the NFL. And there's a reason why, and it's because they've never really cared about winning.
And it seems these days like the quarterbacks are becoming like the NBA superstars, where it really is their decision where they end up to play. The teams have very little say, especially when they have an unhappy franchise quarterback. Now that Jared Goff and Stafford domino has fallen, we now turn to Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson in Houston, who's seemed to be the next big guy, and certainly a guy who has a lot ahead of him. Where do you think he could possibly end up now that those first 2 places have been filled? And is he in a position where he could end up on a team that is just a quarterback away from possibly making it to the Super Bowl?
Well, I've always thought Deshaun Watson's in the same boat as Matthew Stafford, although the Texans seems to be rudderless at times in the direction that they want to go. I mean, they gave the reins to Bill O'Brien. That failed. They don't seem to have any idea what direction they're going to try to get things. And I think that's the frustrating part for Deshaun Watson. The coaching staff that they're going to put together may be an all-world coaching staff. We won't know. When you hire a young coaching staff, you're hoping to do that. But it seems like the message that you're giving to your players is, we're not going to invest in a name because a name costs money, and we don't have any money right now. We know that the Texans are handicapped by their salary situation and their lack of draft picks. To me, the Texans is a great job if you could get Deshaun Watson to stay, but he was not very happy with the coaching hire and the direction the team's going. I can't believe he wants to go play for the New York Jets, because to me, that's another dysfunctional ownership group. They don't seem to care. The Giants always dominate the New York market. The Jets are the other team, and the Jets have never done anything to prove to the Giants, hey, we're here to challenge you, and we're going to go out and spend the money that we need to and get the franchise players. I think with the right team, Deshaun Watson can be great, but I think I heard Colin Cowherd say this last week. What has Deshaun Watson done yet? He's put up a lot of good numbers, but is he as good as Russell Wilson? Is he as good as Brady or Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or any of those guys? So he still has to prove himself, but I think with the right circumstances, he can do that. I would be shocked if he wants to go to New York. I don't know why he'd want to go there, but and then there's the rumor about Jacksonville too. Although, is Jacksonville better drafting Trevor Lawrence? And now that Urban Meyer's there, let's draft Trevor Lawrence, and if he fails the first year, he'll be better the second year, and he'll be better the third year. Just don't do what the Cincinnati Bengals did with Joe Burrow and make him throw out of the pocket 100 times a game and have no offensive line to where he gets sacked every play or he's on the run every play. If you're gonna build your team with the draft picks that Jacksonville has, whether you're gonna get Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence or whoever, spend that money on offensive line to protect your guy, and then go get a dime a dozen running backs to protect him a little bit more.
He's Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics. And Andy, Super Bowl week has begun, although it will be a Super Bowl week unlike other Super Bowl weeks because of COVID-19 and the Chiefs themselves staying in Kansas City until Saturday. How do you see this Super Bowl? Pretty much most people believe that Patrick Mahomes is going to do what he's been doing. I think he's 26-1 over his last 27 games. Do you see this as a fairly easy Chiefs win, or do you think it might be tight, or do you think Tampa Bay has a shot in this Super Bowl?
The shot that Tampa Bay has is Tom Brady. And to me, the only reason the Buccaneers made the playoffs, the only reason that they made it this far is because of him. And in this weird time that we're living in, it just may be a karma situation for Tom Brady. I think the Chiefs and the Buccaneers could play 100 times, and the Chiefs would win 99 of them. And I haven't seen a line lately, but the first one I saw was like 4.5, and I think that's not enough if you're a Buccaneers fan. I think the Chiefs should be more heavily favored than that. But that doesn't mean they're going to win, because there's just something about the magic that Tom Brady brings to a team, and he's got every single player on that team believing, hey, we're going to win this game. This is how we're going to perform. And he holds everybody accountable, from the head coach to the ownership, all the way down to the guy passing out the towels on the sideline. Everybody's got a role, and if you don't do it correctly, you're going to hear from Tom Brady. And to me, that speaks a lot of that locker room and the season that the Buccaneers have had. And I would not be a bit surprised if they pull off the miracle win. He's a better team.
Yes, going to be a fascinating Super Bowl one way or the other. Finally, Andy, as the voice of UTSA Athletics, their basketball team, they're going to be in action against Florida International a little bit later in the week. But they were on a roll. They had won 3 in a row, including a win at home against UTEP, but they go on the road to UTEP, drop that game 69-51. I know the coaches show with you and Steve Henson, 7:00 tonight on Ticket 760. What is the current state of UTSA basketball?
The problem Saturday night in El Paso is kind of the same thing as harbored UTSA all year long, and surprisingly, it comes from the offensive end. They tied the game at 44 with 11.5 and change or so to play in the game, and then just couldn't score for the longest of times. And it wasn't like UTEP made this huge run in a short amount of time. I think the run ended up they got outscored 25-7 to end the game. But it wasn't like it all happened at once. It was methodical and slow, and it was mainly because UTSA's offense didn't keep up scoring. They had 1 field goal and 1 free throw from the 11-minute mark to the 3-minute mark. Now, every team in the world is trying to get the ball out of the hands of Javon Jackson and Keaton Wallace and trying to make other guys beat them. And that sometimes is difficult for UTSA to not necessarily recognize, but to be able to adjust from, because so much of what they do goes through those two guys. But both of those two guys had subpar nights for them, and that's one of the things that's got to happen. They're playing a Florida International team that's not a very good team this year, but we're playing them there. And UTSA has not won a road game since February 6th of last year at Old Dominion, and really in an unlikely place. Old Dominion was a really good team, so they've not had a lot of road success, and they'd like to get both, but they have to try to get at least one on this road trip going into Miami this weekend.
And Andy, we're coming up against it here, but I've got to get your take on Patrick Reed, the villain of the PGA, and the villain that keeps on winning, which makes people just dislike him even more. He, again, was caught in controversy this week with a drop. Your thoughts on him, and is he good or bad for the PGA? Because the villains always seems to be great for tuning in, but for a guy who also finds his way with the trophy at the end of the weekend, people are hating on him.
Well, Patrick's got what lives on an edge. And he doesn't really care what people think about him. I mean, I think from what I know, he's still estranged from his parents. They did not approve of who he married and when he got married a few years ago. And so he cut them off. And when he won the Masters, they live in Augusta, 5 miles from the golf course, and didn't come to watch him play. And I think that's the sad part of the Patrick Reed saga. But he is a really, really good player. And when he's playing his best, he makes every single putt. He did that this weekend. I love rooting against him when he's playing individual matches, but I love the fact that he's on Team USA when he's playing in the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup, and he's a great teammate because even if he can be playing the best in the world, and he went toe to toe with him. You go back a few years ago when at the Ryder Cup at Hazeltine, where he and Rory McIlroy were giving each other the shush finger every time that one of them would make a putt, and the crowd was going crazy. So. Yeah, I think he's great for the game, but I think the players would like for him to have rules officials make more decisions for him. And I go back to the event when he was caught, grounding the club in the bunker at Tigers tournament a few years back. Every player knows when the club hits the sand. I'm not in the caliber of Patrick Reed, but I know when the ball moves. I know when a twig moves. I can feel everything from the shaft all the way down into my hands. And so he knows what he's done wrong. I don't think he did anything wrong this particular weekend, but always there's going to be controversy when something happens because of his past.
You can catch all of Andy's golf takes on the golf show that he hosts on Ticket 760 in San Antonio on Saturday mornings at 8, and also as the voice of UTSA athletics, UTSA basketball at Florida International Friday. That's a 5:30 broadcast on Ticket 760, and then on Saturday, earlier in the day at 12:30 on Saturday at FIU, and the Steve Henson Show tonight on Ticket 760 at 7. Andy Everett, always outstanding. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Last thing.
Sure.
Super Bowl halftime is complete unless you go back to, I guess it was 2016 when Katy Perry performed. So that invite her back.
Thank you so much, Andy Everett, forever the Katy Perry fan. Do you respect him for being a Katy Perry fan, Shannon, and upfront about that?
Yeah, I respect him for that. I don't know that I agree with him. I was wondering why we played Roar coming in, but okay, makes sense.
Yeah, Jeremy knows that either play Katy Perry or ABBA for Andy Everett. About a minute left before we're out of here, Shannon. How about that poll question? How's it going?
Yeah, Rams still leading the way on which team won that Matthew Stafford Jared Goff trade. That'll be up the rest of the day for you to go over and vote. Detroit Lions 47%, Los Angeles Rams 52%.
Go vote at Ticket 760 and at AM 1300 The Zone. Thanks to Shannon Salty Sweeney. Thanks to Jeremy Fouts, your soundscape stylist. Thanks to Tanner Carlson, who was in studio earlier this hour, and Andy Everett moments ago. For all of them, I'm Chris. We will see you in 21 hours. And throughout the day here, the Grand in Your Hand cash contest coming at you between now and 10 more times between now and 8:20. Have yourself a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow in 21 hours. Later. See y'all later. Thanks for being here. Woo!